Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm not quite sure where you're at watching this video, but this is Anita coming to you today. Actually, I'm in Costa Rica. Well, and Kevin's here with me too, in Costa Rica, where we live part of the year, getting out of the snow from back home. And I just was so excited and needed to stop what we were doing today and do this video for you guys. And as I said, Kevin is here on the video with me. Kevin, say hi.
Howdy.
He loves when I do things like that. But I just really wanted to stop what we were doing, you guys, right now today and do this video for you because I was just so excited and kind of blown away, to be honest with you. I just listened to Kevin having a conversation with a restoration company that's going through some massive struggles, and they called wanting to work with us, consult, and be part of our join our coaching program. And the conversation was so incredible and so powerful that I watched this person, like I could literally hear them physically shift and change on the phone talking with Kevin. And just the relief that came across their voice was amazing to me. And I thought it was so powerful, some of the things that Kevin said on this phone call, that I just really felt passionate about jumping right on a video and bringing this to you guys, because I know that there's a lot of suffering going on out there, if you will, a lot of pain that some of you are feeling. And literally, it is so unnecessary. And anyway, but before getting into any more of that, what I want to do is I actually want to kind of style this like an interview. Kevin, I asked Kevin to be on this video with me and wanted to ask him a few questions to hopefully have him be able to answer as Kevin does in only Kevin fashion. So authentically and bluntly and, very straightforward, in hopefully being able to give you guys some answers, maybe even some hope, to know that if you're struggling right now, you're feeling any of these pain points we're going to talk about, like it doesn't have to be that way. And it can change and be different. And literally, restoration companies are changing that for themselves right now. Okay. So when we just let me tell you this real quick. So our coaching program, in order to become a part of that program, and we have just a very few slots available that we take, it requires having a phone conversation with Kevin to see if we're a right fit, right? Kind of talk and see where you're at, where your needs are, and then make sure, because we want it to be a win-win. We want to be able to help you. And so what I want to kind of do is reenact one of those conversations, because I think that it is so powerful for you all to hear this right now. Okay. And if you're not struggling with your restoration business, maybe you know somebody that is. Okay. But so Kevin, what I want to do, is I want to ask you kind of an interview style few questions. Okay. And I just want you to be you. Be that guy we all love that is
That's
just
who I'm good at being. Been practicing for a long time.
so. I just very quickly, I will tell you a little bit in case I know most of you are very familiar with me, not all so much with Kevin. He's been kind of that quiet behind the scenes guy, who's been really carrying a huge load of our coaching program and systems that we do implementing in restoration companies. And Kevin's been in the industry 25 years. He is literally the most incredible, amazing guy when it comes to understanding the psychology of working with people in general. And especially when it comes to adjusters. Like Kevin can talk an adjuster out of anything he wants. It's like amazing. Okay. Kevin has a uncanny way of being able to really dig in and get to the heart of a problem. And then he's got an even more uncanny way. And sometimes some may find this a little annoying, but he has a very unique way of calling it like it is. Okay. And just, he'll tell you straight up, rip the Band-Aid off. Hey, this is where your pain point is. This is what's causing it. Let's do away with it. Let's be done. Let's go on with this. So anyway, that's who Kevin is. So Kevin, what I want to do is I want to start out by asking you, when you get a phone call and you're talking with people about coming on with the coaching program, they're calling, maybe even inquiring about some of our systems that we sell, as well as like the training. Like, what is some of the most common uh, questions, uh, pain points, or problems that you see that restoration contractors are asking you about or hoping you to fix? Um, like, what would you say to that? What's some of the common things?
Yeah. So, I mean, we get calls daily, weekly, from people all over the country and out of the country. We're working in other countries too. And, so I've been doing this for, I don't know, about 18 years now, I think. And so I've seen a lot of conversations, and I'm very networked into the industry. So I see a lot of trends, and I can see things coming that a lot of people maybe can't see because they're not in that position. So it's been really beneficial for me. And what I find commonly is, they want to know, I mean, basically they want to know how to get the work, and they want to know how to get paid, and they want to know how to not have to fight with the adjusters to get money and not have to wait forever, and breaking into a market. So I work with brand new startups, whether they're independents or franchises, all the way into established companies with decades in the industry, and 15, 20 million in revenue, and they have struggles too. And so I've worked with, and we were full service operators, so I could speak to every aspect of the industry. We did all that
So you're
with our
not just
own.
about content restoration, right? Is that
No,
what you're saying?
no. And as a matter of fact, and this really relates even a little bit farther out, home services, which is what we kind of fall under as a category. We're a home services provider in the restoration or cleaning restoration industry. So that's kind of our umbrella, which is pretty broad. And so I've worked with a lot of guys and gals in a lot of different scenarios, trying to, and it's just where they're at in their spot. And there's a pain point or maybe multiple pain points that they're trying to go over. Most people aren't understanding the marketing that they have to do and the positioning they have to put themselves in order to create the response they're looking for, which oftentimes is breaking into a new market as a newer operator. And so they're struggling with that. They've already got a bunch of overhead that they're fighting with, so they're kind of bleeding capital right now because they're not making money, or they're not making enough money to cover their costs, let alone make a profit. And they're frustrated, and there's a lot of anxiety because it's money coming out of their pocket, and they want to stop the bleeding. And so that's kind of the common thing is I don't usually work with great perfect companies because they've got it all figured out, but that's not a lot of people. We're honestly not. I mean, I see this, it's rife in the industry, and then the blame is the adjusters are making it hard for me to make a profit, and Xactimate's not pricing high enough for me to make a profit, and I can't make a profit because XYZ, somebody's making me pay too much for kickbacks and this and that. Well, how do I figure all this out? How do I do this? There's a lot of guys who've been in my market for a long time. How am I supposed to compete? And so there's a lot of pain, and there's no reason to suffer through any of that. This is all stuff that's very fixable. I do it all the time. I fix people's, situations in all kinds of markets, big and small. You'd be blown away at how small and difficult the market was we started in many years ago. And so I guarantee you, I would challenge any of you to come up with a worse market to work out of than the one we were in, and yet we thrived in that market. So it's a matter of understanding the psychology of the business and understanding your numbers and understanding how to work with people and build business.
So Kevin, what would you say as a common thread? What's the one or two biggest mistakes that these restoration company owners are making? The ones that are calling and struggling, like, what do you see consistently are the one or two things that the top one or two things that they're doing wrong?
Mhm. First of all, they don't know their numbers, which is vitally important to understand what your margin is. I ask the same questions that I've been asking for almost 2 decades, and I get the same responses, very similar responses. People don't know their numbers. They don't know how to figure out a gross margin. They don't know, not only do they not know what their numbers are, they don't know what they should be and what they're trying to get to, and whether or not, how far are they falling short. and whether they're profitable. And so those are problems. Those are problems they don't even necessarily acknowledge at this point because they don't really think about it. Then the second thing is, of course, how do I get to work? I need work. I'm desperate. I got to get some work. I'm paying the overhead of this building, and I've got employees, and I've got expenses and utilities, and I'm hemorrhaging money. And what do? I got to get some work. I got to get something through the door. They're desperate, and they'll take anything, and that's a mistake right there. They don't have a plan for how they're going to go about picking up market share and how to position themselves in the market, even as a newcomer, to make your competitors irrelevant and to carve out a nice chunk of the market for yourself.
Kevin, I hear you say this all the time, where you say that, people they use like marketing tools, but they don't have a marketing strategy. And I hear you say all the time, one of the things you teach your coaching clients is a huge chunk of business owners do not know and understand marketing. So then they're afraid of it. And what they do is what do you call it? Abdicate it. So
They abdicate.
yeah, they like make it somebody else's responsibility. And you say some great stuff to them about that. What would you say to anybody watching this that's doing that?
Well, I would say don't abdicate your money. Okay. And so what I mean by that is you think you're delegating it. Okay. You're saying, hey, I'm going to put this person in charge of this part of my business, but you honestly still don't understand that part of that business. And you're not just delegating, which delegating would mean what needs to be done, and you're overseeing somebody else getting that job done for you in your business. Most people just abdicate. They don't know how it works. They hope they're doing it right, and they pay a lot of money to try to get a result, which doesn't always wind up happening. In fact, most times it doesn't.
And is it one of the things that I hear you talk about all the time? I know because I discover it too when I'm doing their numbers with them. They don't track it. So how do
Oh,
they
they have no
know?
idea. Yeah.
Right.
Everybody knows you have to advertise. Everybody knows you have to market. You need to spend some money doing this. And so they do, but they don't really have a method of tracking their ROI, which is your return on your investment. So you're paying somebody as a business development person, or you're paying an SEO company, or you're paying for some kind of lead gen, but you have no control over any of that. You're just spending the money in hopes that you're going to get a reasonable return on your money, but you're not tracking it. And so what I find is they're putting money out over here, over here, over here, over here. And basically they're just shooting a shotgun with the lights off and hoping they can hit something with all the pellets, but they have no idea if that spending of the money is returning in a positive response. And so I tend to take them off of a number of these things that they're paying out for, because you can still get a lead from a company or a service. But then if you still don't know how to deal with the lead and close the lead properly and onboard them, then you lose the lead. And so you could have a lot of leads coming through the door and still not, pull a job.
So wait a minute, Kevin. Are you trying to tell us that hope is not a marketing strategy?
It's not a good one.
Okay.
It's
So,
not one I would recommend.
oh, you're so funny. Okay. So, if I called you up,
Prayer's not real reliable either, by the way, just so in case you're
I
wondering.
mean, prayer has its place, but it is not your marketing strategy.
Yeah.
So, if I'm a restoration company calling you, because I know I hear this all the time when you're on the phone, and I am letting you know that I am struggling to get work.
Mhm.
I'm primarily doing, I was a remodeler or a handyman, and I got into the restoration part. So of course I'm doing building restoration. I'm doing some pack out, but the contents, I don't want to handle that. Like, and I'm doing a little bit of mitt work as well. What do you say to those contractors when they call you struggling with the fact that they're not making any money? Like, I hear you say this all the time, and you
Well, yeah,
talk
I
to them
mean,
about, yeah,
I just had this conversation pretty much yesterday with a guy who's
yeah.
been in the industry for about a year and a half. He's doing the rebuilds. He actually knows his margin fairly well. He seems to have a good handle on that. But he also, and I said, do you really want to make a better profit? And he was inquiring about taking one of our courses that we have, and I said, well, let me ask you a few questions just to make sure where we're at. And then when I said, well, frankly, I think you're asking to take the wrong class. I said, I think you're wanting to open up a contents division, then you need to take our full program, and that's going to get you there and put you in a position where it can go out and effectively build business around that. And so
Right.
by the time I got done and he understood the margins, and I'll give you the margins. I know some of you that are watching this have probably heard us speak about this before in events and stuff. You should be trying for a 70% margin on your contents. Okay. What I'm finding is a lot of people are going out and they're taking whatever kind of job somebody will throw at them and charge them, 10, 20% kickback fees to get the job because that's their marketing program. You're paying them for the privilege of getting a job from them, and you don't have to. And I got clients right now. They were the first thing out of their mouth. I'm paying all these kickback fees and it's killing me. What do I do? I said, well, stop telling them you'll stop taking them. But see, you take them out of desperation because you want a job and you want to get paid and you want to make some money because you got to pay your people and you got bills and blah blah blah. By the time you get done taking all the kickback fees out of it, and some of you guys are franchisees and you got those fees coming out, you're getting keel hauled. You're not making any money. You're not even breaking even.
Right.
And so you have to
Right.
understand 70% gross margin, and a lot of people don't know how to figure that out. So we teach them how to do that. The other side of this coin, which Anise has been doing strategic tax planning and tax prep and accounting for 38 years. Okay. In our business and in other people's businesses, we can show you how to run your numbers. And if you're looking at your numbers and you're not thinking that knowing your numbers is important, you're in a big problem now and you don't even know it.
Yeah. I literally, that's right. I actually forgot about that. In fact, one of our coaching clients, I saved him $27,000 last year on their tax returns. That was just the tax return.
And
Um,
that and
and
that's
then
and
of
that's
course,
a client in this industry because you have clients in a lot of industries,
right.
you have a lot of businesses
Oh
you help.
yeah, yeah. It's one of our coaching clients, honey. I said that. And
Yeah.
and so that was that year, the first year. And now going forward, we going to be 50,000.
Yeah, we
And
can take a look at your books and in 10 minutes tell you whether you're profitable or not and where you need to be and what's going on, and your AR is way out there and you're dying on the vine because you can't pull a check through the door, and that's unnecessary. I've got my clients are pulling checks in the door 10 days to 2 weeks after they submit them.
there's going to be people on this call that aren't going to believe that, but it's
I,
true,
I'm
right?
sure. Listen, you can believe me or not believe me, but I know what I can do and I know what everybody's getting out of the deal. And look, I'm not nobody's going to tell you, yeah, I'm working with Kevin and I was a shit show and now I'm doing great, because nobody wants to admit to it. But I deal with it behind the scenes all day long. It's what I've been
We
doing
do
for
have
years.
people that tell us how amazing their business is now and have testimonials on our about that. So we do have that. But I want to ask you to share something, Kevin, because I think this is huge. You had two companies, quite different. One a new startup, I mean, within a year or two, and the other a 20-year company. Tell us
Mhm.
about those two companies and their result. I think one worked with you 6 months. It took you 6 months, and the other, I think it was like 4 months. So tell us about those two companies, and one's a franchise, one's not. So like totally, and do different stuff, right? One's mitt,
Sure.
one's content.
Yeah. One's a water mitt company that's over 20 years old, and they weren't making they weren't turning a profit. They were actually paying out of pocket every month, and they were paying a lot of money out before they figured out they better go get some help to straighten that up because the ship was leaning hard to one side, and it
Mm-hmm.
was hurt every week when they had to pay out thousands of dollars because they were covering their payroll and everything because they weren't making enough to break even, let alone make a profit.
Right.
And so they came to me and I said, yeah, let's take a look at it. So I spent a couple of weeks with them on site over a couple of months, as well as weekly calls that we were working on, and we diagnosed all the issues and started looking at some numbers and how much lead volume they were getting, how much they were closing, and what their average sales. And we just went through the whole thing, top to bottom, just threw it under the microscope to see what was going on. And we came
Mm-hmm.
up with a plan, and we started cutting some costs. We started increasing some generating revenue, figured out how much their shortfall was and how many jobs they needed to create in order to meet that shortfall, and then started working on their positioning and their approach with their clients. And when we improved it, they made up $1.2 million that year, which got
So
them
in
over
six
the
months
threshold back into profitability.
way over the threshold back into profit. So in 6 months time, you were able to work with them and increase their bottom line 1.2 million. Well, that was gross revenue, but 1.2 million, which puts them back in the positive. And not to mention, so that's in 6 months, and increase
They
the
put a half
revenue.
million dollars in the bank as a capital reserve that year
Yes, half
from
a
from
million
being
dollars
underwater.
in the bank. Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. So,
That's a
not
great
a
turnaround.
mid-only company, 20 years in the business, not a franchise. So now the other one that I want to say was about 4 months in, and a franchise, contents
Yeah, we
only.
took them. We took them from
Only that.
struggling. Yeah, they weren't making enough money
They weren't making
monthly
it, right?
to break even. Even to break even, they weren't there. In fact, they didn't know
They
where
were
they were
charging
at.
us
They didn't.
credit cards, right? They were charging
Yeah,
us
they were.
credit cards.
They were cash infusing the business
Yeah.
to try to keep it afloat while they were trying to figure out how to make it work. And they didn't know if they were profitable. In fact, they thought they weren't profitable as far as job profitability, and they thought their monthly cost of doing business was considerably less than it actually was, which again we figured out in about 10 minutes looking at their books. Figured out they were very profitable on their jobs. They just weren't making enough. They weren't doing enough jobs, so they needed more volume. And so we put that into motion, and within a couple of months, actually, they started righting the ship. And now they're so damn excited because we're in our first quarter this year, and we still got the rest of March, and they've already almost made more money this quarter than they made all of last year. And they've had their biggest month, their biggest job, their biggest checks, all in that period of time. And they're pretty
That
excited.
that is phenomenal as a strategic financial planner to in, to that's fourfold. If this trend continues, which they're on track to continue, that is a
Yeah.
400% increase in
We're going
revenue.
to we'll double their revenue this year, and we'll make them
Well,
profitable.
that's almost unheard of. And even at doubling revenue, like, you guys understand who's listening to that, is freaking amazing. But you can't just do that. If you don't do that and you don't have the systems in place and the plan in place, you could double your revenue and still go out of business because you can't handle it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
So if you can't get the money through the door,
well, right,
we took
juggle
their
the
AR and shrunk it down a lot too, because now they're literally turning checks around. I mean, as little as 10 days
yeah,
to 2 weeks.
yeah,
That
and
never was the
no
case before.
kickback on those checks. Zero kickback. No.
I got them working with some big players right now. They're not paying any kind of fees out on it, and that was one of their complaints was how do we get out of this? How are we going to do this? And the other one was we're up against all these these big market brand companies that are already established in our market. How are we going to compete with them? They've been here longer. They've been doing more business. We're new. How do we combat that? And I said, so I worked with them on that, and now they're taking business away from those companies.
So, Kevin, there's going to be people that are watching that are struggling. They're struggling with getting their invoices paid in a decent time. I mean, my God, we've heard 3, 4, even 6 months of struggle with people getting checks paid, and then they're getting beat up and getting offered like a fraction of the amount of their invoices.
It's a value equation
after the work's done. And then we're hearing that, hey, I'm just going to join the TPA for right now because the phone's not ringing and I got to get work in, and like all of those struggles that are coming in in the phone calls. And I'm watching you literally take these people and completely within 90-day period of time transforming their businesses. Now, you guys, this is not Kevin is the only one over here doing the work. Kevin invests himself hugely, and is really passionate about helping his clients. But these people that have these kind of results, they listen, they're coachable, they're open-minded, they're very transparent, and they leave their ego at the door. And
Mhm.
they do the work. They take the steps and they implement the stuff. Okay. You can't just sign up for a program or call Kevin and be like, it's all going to change now. I'm going to write a check. You still have to do the things. So, and I know that there's limited spots that we do in our program because we are very boutique at Firehouse Education in that we are very high end, very hands on, phenomenal experience that we want to create for all of our, not only our students who come and have our hands on training experience and things, but for our coaching members. So, Kevin, I happen to know that there are a couple of spots available right now, which has not happened in quite some time,
Mhm.
several months anyway. So we do have a couple of new spots open and available on the schedule. So let's say somebody's watching this and you know what, maybe they're at the point where they're just like, I need this help. Like I want to talk to you about consulting and coaching. Maybe they're also just wanting some actual hands-on training, which we actually have a class coming up. How do
Mhm.
people get a hold of finding out about the training? Where do they go? How do they get a hold of us to have an interview to see if we're a right fit and if they would be accepted into the program?
Sure. Well, obviously, you got to go to our website for a lot of that. So, firehouseeducation.com. In there, our classes that we've got coming up are all posted in there. So, we've got one coming up toward the end of next month. Three of them, actually. There's three different classes in there:
Yep.
blackout class, structure clean class, and then the 5-day hands-on experience where you learn it all.
Right. I want to point something out. It's not just a structure clean class, honey. It's a structure clean wildfire
Wildfire, right?
class, which is amazing. Never
Yep.
been trained in the industry before. So it's actually a
And
first unique class.
this is an actual house and shop that we work on. There's a shop with our equipment in it, our ultrasonic and everything, and then the house that it's furnished house, and we go through the process. So you're doing the work in a live setting. Um, so that's the way. And then of course, if you want to get a hold of us to talk about having a conversation, just email Anissa at firehouseeducation.com, and then we'll set a time up. Here's what I'll tell you. Probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going here because I can't not. You're going to gain from, I usually have about an hour conversation with anybody just to see if we're a right fit. We have a conversation about their business and what I can do for them, and very transparent about that. You're going to learn a lot, whether you work with me or not. After that conversation, you can walk away with a lot of value. Um, but more than likely, it's a two-way interview. Is this a right fit for you and me? And can I help you? And, are you willing to do what Anissa just lined out a few minutes ago in terms of being open to that coaching program? And if you want to end all your pain and suffering, it's not necessary to go through unless that's just what you like. I mean, you're in good company. There's a lot of companies out there because I hear about them all the time. They're in this boat. They're having struggles with getting work. They're having struggles with being profitable, how to write their scopes properly, so they're getting a fight with the insurance company. They're getting paid quickly. I mean, I see companies out there all the time. They're doing a lot of volume, but their AR is about to put them under because they're 90 plus days out on checks that they can't get back through, and they can't pay their bills and pay their payroll and stuff. And it's a struggle. And I see it all the time. It's not necessary. I take people out of that all the time and show them how to do it so it doesn't become, a continuous problem. The kickback fees are not necessary either. It's easy to fix. I've done that quite effectively with several people that we've worked with this last little bit. So it's all reversible, and making sure your numbers are right, and that you've got, that you're getting the right kind of jobs. You're struggling because you're taking anything, and those anything jobs are not getting you the money you need to be sustainable. And so you've got to be a little more picky about what you do, or at least balancing the jobs that you're doing, the types of jobs. And we learned that the first year we were in business, that here's what's making us money and here's what's not making us money, and what's, how much of the low profit stuff makes up the majority of our business. We got to turn that around. So I could show you how to find better verticals and the proper equipment without spending tons of money on equipment unnecessarily, because I see that happen all the time. I get calls, I need to sell this fire line system. I got it 2 years ago and I paid 50,000 or 60,000 or whatever it's going for these days. And, we just haven't used it, and we're just, I just want to get rid of it. Can you help me? And I'm thinking, what a tragic thing to go out and spend all this money thinking that I'm going to buy all this shiny stuff and it's going to make business happen. And it's not how it goes.
Mhm.
But I'll show you how it does work and how you do get that money and how you can make your clients irrelevant, or your customer, or your competition irrelevant. How you get your clients to want to work with you, pay you what you ask for without a fight, and pay you happily and in a timely fashion. If that's what you're looking for, if that's what you're trying to do, if that's what you got into this business for, then we should probably have a conversation and see what we can do. If what you really did was open this business up so you could have the lifestyle you always dreamed of, instead you bought yourself a job that's taken more time up than you thought, maybe you had when you were in your last career, then we would probably ought to have a conversation and see what we can do. So this is just an open-ended, here's what I can do for you. Let's have a conversation, see if it works for you, and see if we can do something to fix all that and make it fun to be in this industry.
Well, I really appreciate, I know you like totally dropped everything when your excited wife said, hey, honey, I need you to film this video with me so we can put it out to everyone. And I'm totally crimping in on your beach time. So I'm going to let you go, but I want to, again, thank you for listening to me and coming on and doing this video, because you guys, I really feel very passionate about all of this. And, if you've been following me for a minute, you know that what I'm telling you is exactly how I feel. And I'm very, very, very passionate about this industry and what an incredible industry it is to be a part of, and how much we get to help people and how much we get to make money while we're helping people, which means we can help more people and do more in our communities. So I just really can't stress how important it is for you to expand your mind in the process and be open-minded and learn the numbers and learn the systems. Look, you go, if you're watching this potentially on our YouTube channel, make sure you're subscribed. I'm 400, I think 450 videos on here where I'm teaching you so much for free. Kevin and I, Travis, we have videos on here. Like, know your numbers, understand marketing, understand what profit, what are your margins? What should they be? What are your current margins that you have in your company? Understand about company culture and how to hire people, how to onboard your clients, how to talk to an adjuster. Like, there's just so much that I wish I could just get out there to you all the time, because all those pieces is what's going to end pain for you if that's what you're feeling right now. So please don't suffer, okay? Go out there and learn the things that you don't know, and understand that one of the biggest things you can learn is how to run your business. There's a lot of amazing content restoration companies that are so good at cleaning the stuff, at removing the odor, at packing the box. And we watched them go out of business because they didn't know how to run the business. Okay. So please,
By
I'm
the way,
begging.
two of the companies that I've only been working with for 90 days have already outgrown their 10,000 square foot spaces, and they're looking for a bigger place to work because they don't have enough room.
Right, right, true. So
What a
please,
great
I'm
problem
begging
to have.
you, right? Take this video to heart and really stop and think about where you're at. If you're where you want to be and things are great, awesome. So happy for you. Please comment below the video if you're on the YouTube. Shoot us an email. Let us know the successes you're having. Love to hear that stuff all the time. But if you're not where you want to be, if you're struggling, if you feel like you have a stressful job every day, not the business that was going to fund your perfect life, and you're living your ultimate lifestyle that you've designed and put into place for you, maybe you don't even know where you're at on a financial level, and you don't feel like you're building your wealth and just generally aren't happy and not having fun, please, please reach out to us. My email is anisa@firehouseeducation.com. As Kevin said, you can comment below the video here if you would like as well. But reach out. Let's connect. And I know that we can help you. Okay. All right. Well, guys, if you've made it this far, thank you very much. Apparently, we didn't bore you. And we really appreciate all of you. Our audience is what makes our life possible, to be honest with you, and helps us further help those in the industry that we're very passionate about. And we get to do the job that we love to do and wake up every day being very ecstatic and happy to work with the clients that we have. So we want to thank you for that. And on that note, we will see you on another video sometime in the future.